this? A letter for me.
Alright, welcome back to another TTM Thursday with Remember the Great Sports. I'm going to try to keep this as short as I can, only because this time I have 5 through the mails, and I know in the last video I said I'm going to try to keep it to 4, but I really can't justify shooting a video with 1 envelope. So I'm going to try to move fast through these, not tell too many stories like I have in the past, and go from there. I think some of these should be some of my NBA and NFL successes. It looks like I had a couple here, and no index card sign, which is fine. But the first is Hall of Famer of the Detroit Lions on 2 of 2, Joe Schmidt. Now, Mr. Schmidt is a very old school NFL player. I believe he played his entire career with the Lions, and he was elected to the Hall of Fame shortly after his, playing career ended. So definitely one of the greats of the game from the NFL standpoint, and thank you, Mr. Schmidt, for the generosity of signing a couple cards for me. Alright, moving along. Next one I have here is from San Francisco, California. I think I know who this one is. Yeah. Okay, and this is ironically pretty cool. I don't think she signed the indexes, no. And I'm going to try not to butcher her name too much here, but Tara VanDerveer, or Derveer. Hopefully I'm not butchering your name too much, Tara. But ironically, right after I sent these, if you watch ESPN, SportsCenter, or whatever, I was watching The Bottom Line one time, watching, whatever. And it said she was going to get her 1,000th victory as a coach at Stanford University. So I didn't realize that when I wrote her, but I had a couple of these Team USA women's basketball national team cards. What year was this? The '96 Olympic team she coached to, I believe, the gold medal. I could be wrong. Apologize if I am. But no doubt a Hall of Famer, kind of quietly amassed the amount of wins that she did over a very long period of time. And thank you very much for signing those for me. They will definitely go into my collection. Sorry if I'm moving the sign too much there. Alright, so moving on. Battling a little bit of a cough here. So we have one from Kansas City. And I think I know who this is. This could be a baseball player, but I'm not positive. Oh no, not a baseball player. This is Mr. Conrad Dobler, formerly of the St. Louis Football Cardinals and the New Orleans Saints. And Mr. Dobler signed 1, 2, 3, 4 cards for me. So very happy to see that again. Yeah, I remember when I sent the card to him, I read that. On the back of this card, this is pretty sweet. The youngest, I don't know if you can read that or not. I'm sorry if it's blurry or whatever, but it says the youngest member of the Cardinals offensive line. He has been described as the meanest man in football. That is awesome to have that on the back of your card, to be described as the meanest man in football. St. Louis Cardinals football, now the Arizona Cardinals. I vaguely remember the St. Louis Cardinals football team, the Big Red as they call them. They moved away when I was like 6 or 7 years old. I grew up, in the St. Louis area, and I vaguely remember my father and my uncles have told me about going to games there. I hate to say this, but in my lifetime, which hasn't been very long, I've seen St. Louis lose 2 NFL franchises. Hopefully we can get one back in St. Louis someday, but I did have an opportunity to go to a couple Rams games with, some family members and some schoolmates back in the day. And I understand that things happen, and the business is business and football, but St. Louis without football just isn't the same. Hopefully they can get another team and support another franchise in the near future. So we'll see if that happens. All right, we got another one from, ironically, St. Louis. What are the odds of that? Okay, so postmarked from St. Louis, Missouri. What do we got here? Okay, yes, yeah, I remember this. This is Mr. Norm Stewart, and I think I sent him an extra card and he kept it, which is fine. But Norm Stewart may not be too well known throughout the country, so hopefully this video will be a little insightful for you. But Norm was the head coach for Missouri, University of Missouri men's basketball program for many years. I was going through my old basketball coach cards, I showed Lou Dolson a little while back, and I saw these, and I'm like, I probably ought to send a few to him and ask him to sign them, because I don't foresee myself catching up to him anytime soon. I have been to Columbia many times, which is where the University of Missouri is, in Columbia, Missouri, but I've never had an opportunity to catch up with him, so I just thought, the mail is probably the best way to get it to him. So I sent 3 of them in the mail. We sent 2 back signed, so very happy to add those to my autograph card collection. And we got one final one here, and this is an oversized one, but I don't think it's an Action All-Star like I've talked about in the previous videos. I think this is I want to say a basketball card, and you'll see why after I open this up, why I had to send it in an oversized envelope. This is back in the 70s and late 60s. Topps really didn't make too many sports cards other than baseball, and baseball was their main product. But a couple index cards here. Yeah, you didn't sign those, which is fine. Again, I use them to protect the cards more than anything. But came across this guy's card randomly, we'll call it random. And this is Mr. Don Ohl. As you can see on the card, he inscribed, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize I was off camera there. I apologize. I was looking down at the card and not at the screen. As you can see from the card, he inscribed 5-time All-Star, and if you take a look at some of the stats on the back of his card, at this point, he was averaging 16.9 points for his overall career. So that's pretty good, for somebody that played during that era. I mean, there were some super good ball players back in the 60s, that also played his position. So for him to make the All-Star team 5 times during his career is saying a lot about how good of a ball player he was, because, he had some pretty stiff competition, to make the All-Star team. And as a second item, I just threw in one of these, cheap skybox cards, the history of basketball or whatever. Pretty much these cards are worthless, so I occasionally, when I only have one item of somebody, I just toss one of these in there and see if they'll sign him, and he gladly obliged in doing so. So I hope you enjoyed this installment of the channel. I kind of moved a little quicker through these than I normally do. Sounds like I have a telephone call in the other room, so I'm going to wrap this video up, and I will definitely see you for the next installment. Definitely look at some of my other videos, and Definitely leave some comments and subscribe if you like them. Thank you.